Genspace is the world's first community biology lab, a place where people of all backgrounds can learn, create, and grow with the life sciences. They have served the greater New York area since 2009, with hands-on STEAM education programs, outreach events for the public, and a membership program to support New York's community of creatives, researchers, and entrepreneurs. With support from the NYC Economic Development Corporation, Genspace recently launched the Break into Biotech training program. Civic TV's Fanwil Muindi visits the community lab and talks with Lab and Operations Manager Casey Lardner and Vanessa Champagne, the Development and Communications Manager.
So we are in Brooklyn at Genspace's headquarters, okay? And from what I've been reading, Genspace is the first, perhaps maybe in the world, tell me if I'm wrong, community lab space, if you will, right? So for those who are watching, can you explain what a community lab is to get us going?
Yes, so you are correct. Genspace is the world's first community biology lab, and it just started out as because of the idea of a scientist, architect, artist were looking for a place to learn more about biotech, and started out in their living room. And it kind of was not a safe space to get to learn science in a living room. So they moved into a lab space to have that opportunity to do that. So Community Biolab is a place where people from all interdisciplinary background and intergenerational experiences come to this space to learn life sciences skills. And they're really special part about Genspace is that you're not just learning through a book, you're actually hands-on doing what you're learning.
So you've been running since 2009,
yes,
right? And a core part of the community space is engaging the local community, right? The local New York, Brooklyn community, right? In those years, what are some key lessons that you guys have been learning? Because we're in the lab space right now, and we'll do some B-roll later to show people. The community comes here, right?
Yes.
So what have you guys learned from them?
I think in this space, what we learn is that, especially for the artists, their perspective and the way they think and how creative they are when they're approaching science makes the learning a lot more interactive and like a lot more fun, because I think for scientists and subject matter experts too that come to the lab to teach or to be a mentor in different space, they really appreciate that the questions that we get from those that do not have any science background and how they like approach questions and to be able to learn.
Yeah, I can only second that. There's so much freedom when you approach science from a non-traditional background, or at least not within an industry setting or an academic setting. So my background is in academic research, and all of the pressure to get it right, that's just absent from the learning environment at Genspace. It's just what you bring to the table about what you know or what you're curious about goes here.
So just walk me through this. Someone is watching this. How does this work? So someone just goes online, sees, because I know you have a lot of experiential programs as well, right? Courses, and we'll talk about one of them in detail soon. But just walk me through the process. What happens? A community member is interested.
Yeah, oftentimes a lot of folks find Genspace through word of mouth is our biggest advocate. So that speaks to the positive experience that people have when they come to the lab. But oftentimes when folks are searching or like they want to learn life sciences and not quite sure where to start, and they come here. And also we try, there could be people like someone that works in IT and an artist or someone who's retired all in a workshop. We offer workshops here of different subjects, and they can all be in the workshop. So for our instructors, it's a challenge to be able to leave out the jargon when teaching and making sure that everyone in this space is able to understand. And like Casey mentioned, like that, there is no pressure for anything to come out of what you learn or what your project is. It's just like the idea is for you to learn. That's primary. Yeah, so that's kind of how it goes, and people kind of grow based on what they want to be a part of. We have community projects. We can speak about that a little bit more. Folks they come here, they don't have a project specifically that they are that they want to do, but there's a subject matter that interests them the most, like biomaterials. So they join the biomaterials studios with other people that are interested in that subject matter, and they kind of like tinker and create recipes of biomaterials and like do different things, and engage a little bit more. And that's how, like, through repetition and through community members, they learn a lot of their life sciences skills. I myself, my background is in communications. All of the science outside of 7th grade I have done here at Genspace. So it was just so really interesting to see how much I've developed in the last 3 years of being at Genspace, because like I'm supposed to communicate to the world what Genspace does, but I never really thought I'd be able to do it myself. And I just feel like I'm just a testament that like I have always avoided the life science or like the sciences, because it just feels that if you're not going to build a career out of it, there's no necessity to like learn anything. But that's not what Genspace is about. You don't necessarily have to build a career out of it if you're just like really a tinkerer.
So curiosity almost.
Yeah, curiosity sparks this place.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about what science are they able to actually do here?
Yeah, so our programming falls into 4 main buckets. So we have public programs, which are often free or low cost and open to everyone. Well, everything we do is open to everyone. We have a membership program. So folks, like Vanessa said, can come and join a community project, which is community projects have some kind of common goal and common interest, and then over time the group as a whole brings all of their skills and interests to the table to accomplish different things. So we have a group called Open Plant that is working on expressing insulin in liverwort plants to someday in the future grow insulin at home. There's also a subset of that group, so it's a lot of plant biology, synthetic biology, molecular biology, and also many electrical engineers are part of that group. They're creating.
And these are non-experts, should we say, community members, right? That are just coming here across the spectrum. A mixture of everybody. Wow. Okay.
So in addition to Open Plant, we have a biomaterials project, and then we have a third community project called Engineered Matter Labs that's broadly interested in protein engineering and spider genomes for the properties of spider silk and other cool biomaterials that spiders can
So folk can jump in at any point during the project. So they come in, see what's going on. They caught up, right? There's someone that's leading the project, shall we say, and then can catch them up. Fascinating. So you mentioned, so that you have these kind of projects. How many projects in total are ongoing right now?
Those are the 3 community projects, and then you can also join the lab as an individual member to pursue an independent project. And that there's a huge range. Mycelium as an architectural material, genetics projects, working with bacteria to create pigment and engineer more sustainable ways to dye clothing. There's all kinds of really creative.
Can they pitch projects as well? Okay.
As long as it's safe, so that's my job as the lab and operations manager. As long as it's safe for our space, we are a biosafety level 1 space, so we don't work with any kind of pathogen or agent that can cause harm to human health or the environment, as long as it falls within what we can do here with our equipment. Folks can work on it.
Who comes, like in the populace, who is mostly coming to your space in terms of the community members?
Yeah, just firstly, in the regards of pitching project, like Casey mentioned, these are our 3 community projects, but in the past, there's been other community projects that were at Genspace, like a robotics team folks or like optogenetics. It really depends on the membership. Like Casey mentioned, we have a membership program. It's really who's a part of our membership at the time that kind of like sparks the interest. So there's a project lead, the person that's that's going to do the logistics of it, and it can grow from there. So there could be other community projects in the past, but in the last few years, those are our main projects. So about 40% of our membership right now in the last few years have been artists who are trying to incorporate science into their artwork.
I see. Wow. Why artists? Is this the community here locally or something else?
The New York City,
Okay,
community.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about that ecosystem, because you guys are not operating in isolation, right? It's who do you work with and in what way?
Well, actually, with respect to our collaboration with BioBet is not just Elena's work, but recently, the exhibit that just closed at Biobat was a collaborative exhibit called Ecologies of Care that featured Genspace artists as well as artists from the NARS Foundation, which is another South Brooklyn arts establishment, and Makerspace, which is also at the Brooklyn Army Terminal. And so that group of artists, including the Genspace artists that were represented, were Karen Ingram, Elaine Young, Aradita Paramsimpuria. Who else was there? Lolo Ostia. And so all of that work was investigating the way that we think of science in a changing future and the way we can use science to re-envision what collaborating with organisms can teach us about how we treat the world and move through it as the climate continues to change. It's a broad level overview, but
collaborating with an organism. Right?
Exactly.
That's really cool. So what are, I kind of started with this earlier, like what are community members telling you after they have experienced, after their time here? But more broadly is how do you think about impact, right? And what are some things that you are tracking to say, hey, this is happening and this is because of what we are doing?
Yeah, there are so many, just because Genspace does, is a space for everyone. There's just like not one standard answer to what success looks like in this space. There are folks that measure their success through, we have a member now that like came with absolutely no background and worked with housing and homelessness in the past and has been growing their life sciences skills here. And like through his experience as like he's building a guide on like what are the next steps when you become a member, like how this is what helped me be a little bit more comfortable in the lab. So to me that's a measure of success. Like we also have a 6-month paid internship for youth, a high school youth. A lot of the times they're doing things that they wouldn't see in grad school, and they're going back into schools or like to different programs and saying they feel so comfortable. They already know how to pipette, or they already know, like we take them on field trips to different labs, and like a lot of the PhD candidates are like, oh, I never heard of CRISPR until I got to this level in my education, and they're like 15, 16, and they already know the concepts and have had some hands-on lab experience. They come back to be peer mentors to the following cohorts. So that's the measure.
So they're coming back,
yes.
right? So that means you're tracking them somehow.
They're coming back.
Okay.
Like the youth said, they like the vibes here at Genspace. So
forget the science.
Yeah,
the vibe is also.
They really like the vibes here. So they do come back in different capacities. There are students that even though alumni that even though they're not in the life sciences, they've come back as marketing interns, social media interns. It's just a space that they feel comfortable. And then there are folks like Aradita that Casey mentioned that was part of the exhibit. She's built a business in the fashion industry through research that she has done here at Genspace. She first got her teaching experience here at Genspace. So it's not just like the community members, even subject matter experts that come back and trying to build their teaching experiences are able to do so in a really comfortable, non-pressure space, and like and then they go on to apply to programs or tenured professor roles as well.
So building skill sets,
yes.
right? Really. What is if you were to pick a skill set that you guys are like, this is our bread and butter that we teach here, what is that?
I think that would be biohacking.
Tell me more.
So we offer a monthly class called Biohacker Bootcamp that is Genspace's bread and butter, probably our longest running class, if not one of the longest running classes. It's a 12-hour course over 3 days. It's 4 hours each day, often offered over the course of 2 weekends. And folks come, they learn how to pipette, they isolate DNA from their own cheek cells to do a genetic ancestry test that gets sent out for sequencing, and then they get to do the bioinformatics to learn where their family comes from in the world.
And this is anybody?
This is anybody. It's the same genetic test that you would pay for most services, but obviously Genspace doesn't keep or own your data. It's really, really hands-on. They do it themselves. They also do a bacterial transformation. And so there's some genetic engineering and molecular cloning skills that they learn. So they come away having the whole toolkit that you would need to participate in the molecular biology revolution.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that, because I think part of what you're trying to do as well is to being in New York, and your partnership with the New York Economic Development Corporation is around skills building, right? So the workforce development, right? So a new program, I believe, just launched, as from what I've seen in February, Break into Biotech. Tell me about that. How did this actually? What was the genesis for creating this program?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It started out because, like I mentioned, we have youth interns, and we get interns through LifeSci NYC that come to serve as peer mentor for our youth internship program. Oftentimes, Genspace is one of those spaces that provides them the life sciences skills that they need to get started, maybe and as a lab tech somewhere. But oftentimes it's really hard for students to get placed in internship programs outside of Genspace because they don't have enough hands-on experience, or and then oftentimes the companies don't have enough time to train them in that hands-on experience. So there's like a gap missing there between they've maybe graduated undergrad and they're trying to land an internship, but they just need a little bit more time to get hands-on experience. So we've kind of modeled it out after our really successful program with our youth internship called BioRocket, and we made an adult model of that. So being able to gain that skills is not just from undergrad, but what if you are a career changer? You've always wanted to be in life sciences, or just really transitioning careers, or someone who's like looking into a tech startup or something like that. Where is that space where they can be a part of New York City's growing biotech industry? So we're just here to like fill in the gap of like, where is the space that folks, you don't necessarily want to go back to school either. That could be really costly, or just like not in the cards for some folks, and we're able to do it here. So why not?
Yeah, accessibility, right? Yeah. Casey, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was a perfect synopsis. It's just like Vanessa said, the you need experience to get experience problem. And so the program is really just aimed at providing that experience, and not just providing the hands-on training, but in a community setting that really redefines how you develop science identity and how you can bring yourself to a scientific workplace.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned science identity, right? Because in a way, you guys are democratizing that meaning and access points, right? No longer you have to be in a PhD lab and spending all those years there. You're saying, hey, come here, and you can experiment, in a safe manner, right? How, and I'll keep asking the same question, how has the community responded to that, right? What are some of the things that you're hearing them tell you that tells you, hey, there's something here, right? And we need to keep going with this?
I love that question, because when we finally got to formally announce Break into Biotech just 2 months ago, many of our the leaders in the Genspace community, members who have been with us for a long time, who themselves have changed careers or developed skill sets or built an artistic practice that they wouldn't have been able to build without the access to the lab space here, they were just effusive on LinkedIn. It was just so heartwarming, because we're excited about the program as staff, but it was just so wonderful to see reflected in the people that make Genspace what it is, like their excitement for formalizing the access to career changes or just getting in at the ground level in biotech. It was just a reflection of like, this is the power of community biology.
Right. Yeah. Community biology.
Yeah.
Like that.
One thing I wanted to add too, outside of just a youth internship, oftentimes we hear about STEM education for K through 12, right?
Right.
But what about after that? And often in life, we say learning never stops, but where do you learn these life skills if you're not going to school? And you mentioned we're trying to change who gets to science, who gets to call themselves a scientist if you're not, and it's not just always outside inside academia.
Right.
Or in a PhD program, there very much can science here. And I think the interdisciplinary of people coming from different backgrounds is super important on how people take on projects here. People have collaborated on projects. We've had our professor that teaches our DIY neuro class became part of the committee for a class attendees PhD. Like people build relationships and business partners and whatever it is that they are seeking. It kind of organically just happens here at Genspace.
So this is what you told the EDC, right, in your proposal? Because
they kind of know it.
Because in a way, this is how do you communicate
Yeah.
the impact that's happening here,
Yeah.
right? And I think you've been doing a great job at that already. But I can imagine that this is not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's the top challenge, or one or two top challenges that that comes across every time, and you guys, I wish we could solve this?
Yeah, science is very expensive. That is the top challenge. And we are a nonprofit organization, and our work, we see the impact of our work. We are at like the highest member of membership in Genspace history.
How many is that now?
There's about 50 active members
50.
total with paused memberships. We have about between 90 and actually close to 100. And that's across members who are part of the membership program, as well as a few programs with universities. Like we have a relationship with FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, where their students are members.
I see. And do they, just to clarify, do they pay as members a monthly fee or something like that?
Yeah, the membership, standard membership comes with a monthly fee.
I see. Okay.
Yes, but that monthly fee is also pretty minimal to what it takes to run the lab, because accessibility is our mission here at Genspace. So we do have to do a lot of fundraising and diversifying our fundraising avenues that can be really hard. And as I mentioned, youth is a little bit easier to pitch to folks about funding, but adult education kind of takes a sidestep a lot of the times. It's a harder case. And I think our model is just like so innovative and so new. It's hard to translate on paper, like what's a community project and like how they're doing that. So that could be a challenge. I think the best way to explain Genspace is for people to experience it. It's for people to come to the lab and visit
hence we're
it.
here.
Yes, yes. And a lot of once you're here, you're like, oh, I get it now. I can tell you about it, but like experiencing it is just like a whole different magic. And like we like to say in the lab, a lot of our equipment have character and personality because they, probably from a dentist office or on eBay. Casey's great at finding good deals for equipment. We have to be really creative.
Do you get donations as well? Sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. So we have to be really creative on making sure that everyone has what they need while they're here to have the full experience.
Yeah, because you're right. Funding is a big challenge,
Yes.
in all of that. So if you had a blank check, you just got a blank check, right? I'm curious, what would you do first?
I would have a Genspace everywhere in all the boroughs.
So expansion. You're talking about just let's
Yeah.
multiply, because it's duplicate what we're doing here
Yeah.
in different communities.
Yeah, people people need a lab. Like people need a Genspace in every borough, multiple spaces. Like I would triple this lab.
Genspace in every borough.
A Genspace
State,
in every
city.
borough.
Let's keep going, right?
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we just looked at each other and smiled at the same time, because that's our biggest dream right now. If we're a break into biotech, we have participants coming from the Bronx who are here in South Brooklyn, and that's a long trip for them, and they are really excited and committed to be here. But if there was a Genspace closer to them, they wouldn't have to make such a long train trip.
Yeah. You know what this makes me think of? Micro. You know the micro museums that are here? These vending style machines that the founder, Charles Phillip, he's been putting them around different places around New York. and it's been very fascinating. And his idea is, let's make the science museum more accessible, right? A science museum, when you mentioned Genspace in every corner, he's thinking micro museums in every corner, like a vending machine, which makes me wonder, you guys are learning so much here. And I think we're just barely scratching the surface, if I'm being honest. I'm just curious, how are you communicating what you're learning? Are you publishing these insights? Is it IP that you don't want to share? Or I'm curious, because one of the challenges in this space is there are folk who are probably going to watch this later, perhaps a scientist somewhere or a community member, community leader saying, I want a Genspace in my community.
Yeah.
What shall I do first?
That is a really good question. We try to share through our social media a lot of the projects. That's probably our biggest avenue right now to share projects. But we do have goals and aspirations to have a blog of the project so people can stay updated on all of the things that are currently happening at Genspace. But I really do believe that word of mouth is Genspace's biggest advocate. Like we will have folks come, we've had folks come to our mycelium workshop, and they're like, I was at an exhibit and someone's like, there was a mycelium involved, and someone said, there's a place that can teach you how to sculpt with mycelium, and it just happened we were having that workshop at the time. So word of mouth has been our biggest advocate, and once people experience the space, they always would like to come back or continue to come back. There are very many community biology labs across the world. We're just one of the few that has full-time staff dedicated to making it work. A lot of the other community biolabs, it's a little harder because it's volunteer basis, or there's like one part-time person. So they are thriving, but need a little bit more push and assistance because there isn't like a full-time staff dedicated to it. So we do, outside of word of mouth and social media, we do plan to, like on our website, have a blog. The content is already there. It's, the small staff thing, that's
capacity, right?
Capacity to get it, the blog up and running. But that is a plan because oftentimes we want people who are searching for those same kind of things to kind of come across it on our website and kind of know that we're here.
Well, this was so much fun.
Thank you.
And I look forward to the next conversation. Thank you both.
Likewise.
So much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Awesome.